much of a responsibility does the school board have for maintaining the safety of children who have disabilities when we put our children in their care? That's the question we need to ask ourselves. I'll repeat it. How much responsibility does the school board have, does the school have for caring for the safety of our children who have disabilities when we put those children in their care? If a child is allowed to wander off, if a child is allowed to leave the school facilities, a child who has the mental capacity of a 7-year-old, a 14-year-old child, a child who is autistic, a child who is incapable of speaking, if that child leaves the school, is undetected, and you do not notify law enforcement for over an hour, do not notify parents for over an hour, crucial time needed to help recover the child, is that school liable? If a school monitor or a security officer sees the child in a place that they're not supposed to be, in a location that they're not authorized to be, away from their class, sees them and says, go back to class, is that officer required or expected to escort that child? Is that officer required to check surveillance footage to make sure that child complied with the order? According to the New York police, they're not. According to the New York police, just saying go back to class is enough. I don't think so. Which brings me to my story of Avonte Oquendo, who went missing, Queens child, 14 years old, autistic child, went missing back in October, early October. And you know, I wanted to do this story, but I didn't do it. I hesitated because as the day stretched on, I had a sinking feeling. We all know that sinking feeling, don't we? We know the longer that it takes, the longer a child is missing, the less likely it is that that child will be found safe. And frankly, I didn't want to deal with the fallout. Also didn't want to deal with the fuckheads who would say stupid comments like one of the comments I read on another site as I was doing some research to get a little bit more of the details. Who said, well, why didn't she just stay home with the child and homeschool the child? I had an autistic child and I stayed home. Shut up. All children are entitled to a public education. The class that Avonte went to was a small class, 10 students, 3 teachers. 10 students, 3 teachers. That's a very high ratio. You mean to tell me 3 teachers couldn't watch 10 students? Don't speak. It's appalling, some of the shit that comes out of the mouths of people who get to be nameless on the internet. But for anyone who was thinking that, let me just take that as well. 3 days ago, a body was found, a torso, a skull, and an arm was found, dismembered in the East River. That's near the Queens shoreline. The clothing on that torso matches that of Avonte Oquendo, and we're still waiting for further DNA testing to confirm that. They're hoping to be able to do that. So people are wondering what happened. How did this happen? How did Avonte end up in that river? You know, earlier, a couple days ago, someone suggested that it was possible they saw a child running along the East River being chased by a dog. And they did float the assertion that maybe that was Avonte and maybe he fell in the river after being chased. This information has been debunked somewhat. That's what I'm getting. So we don't know yet. We just don't know how he ended up in the river. I'm also reading reports that some of the decomposition of the body is not totally consistent with what would happen underwater, so we don't know. We're thinking maybe he may have met with foul play. They're going to examine the remains and try to come up with some solutions or some explanations, some answers to questions. Of course, the family is devastated. The family can only imagine what's going on there with the mother and the father and how they're dealing with this situation and the tragic end to a very horrifying story. But I do want to say this because I don't want this to be lost. the outpouring of support that flooded through New York City from volunteers, from citizens, from the media is unprecedented. I've never, this story has been kept alive. Folks have been pounding the pavement every day, looking for Avonte signs in every terminal. They did an all-out blitz trying to locate this young man. And for that is something that's admirable, and it shows a deep level of compassion. I'm talking New Jersey, all the way up to Pennsylvania, and folks here in Maryland, we know about this case. And we all go through it as well. And I think anyone hearing this case throughout the United States and even beyond can just imagine the emotional impact of this and have felt this upon hearing about the story. So, that's one takeaway. Now, what we need to get to next, we need to get to understanding what led to this. Because folks who want to say, well, hey, things happen, mistakes, look, my child falling down the steps at your school, that's one thing. My child going missing and ending up dead in a river, you not letting me know that my child is even missing, that's a problem. And that's not just going to go away with I'm sorry, my bad. Not good enough. And I'm hearing that it's possible that some footage has been withheld from the attorney of the family. So we want to know about that footage. We want to know what's on all 20 cameras. We want to know who was sitting at the desk. If it's on the camera, who was monitoring the cameras. So we need to get underneath this. Look, when something happens to one of us, it happens to all of us. We need to recognize that. We need to get this concept in our heads. So safety of our children should be our number one priority, and we should hold them accountable. That's why we care. That's what separates us from the animals, is that we have compassion, and that it doesn't just have to happen to me for me to be concerned. The fact that it happened to you is enough for me to be concerned, for me to be involved, for me to be aware. Did someone not do their job? Was someone just too lazy to look at a monitor? Was someone just too lazy to walk a flight of steps? I don't know. Was someone more concerned about how this looked in their public image? Not to report it to law enforcement, not to notify the parents when the child was noticed to be missing? Or is this just a case of red tape bureaucracy? This is all after the fact. None of those answers to those questions will bring back Avonte, but it may possibly prevent future Avontes. That's my hope. That's the goal. It's not just retribution. That's how I feel about it. I'm upset. I'm concerned. I want answers. We should get them to the Oquendo family, to Vanessa Fontaine. Our deepest condolences and sympathies go out to you. Hopefully, you will find a way to find strength to get through this horrific ordeal. We've walked this long road with you, and we feel for you, and we feel for the death of Avonte. We need answers, ladies and gentlemen. I will give you that information as it becomes available. Thanks for watching.